I was wrong. And sometimes those three words weigh more than 1,000 excuses. Tonight, I'm not standing here to defend myself. I'm not here to explain the chaos, the misunderstanding, or the fear that made me lose my way. I'm here because love, real love, music, doesn't hide behind pride. I hurt someone I never wanted to hurt, not because I didn't care, but because I cared so much that I forgot how fragile love can be. You see, when you truly love someone, their silence becomes louder than your own thoughts. Their tears feel heavier than your regrets, and the distance between you. It feels like losing a part of your soul. I was wrong. Not weak, not evil, not heartless, just human. And love, real love, teaches us that being human means making mistakes. But it also means having the courage to kneel before the heart you broke and say, "Forgive me," because love is not about perfection. It's about choosing each other, even after the storm. And tonight, from the deepest place in my heart, I choose you. I was wrong. Those words are not easy to say. They don't come out strong or proud. They don't echo like victory. They fall quietly, almost trembling, like a confession whispered in the dark. And tonight, I stand in that quiet, not as someone perfect, not as someone untouchable, but as someone who loved and failed in the way he loved. I was wrong. Not because I didn't feel deeply, not because my heart was empty, but because sometimes even a heart full of love can lose its direction. Sometimes fear disguises itself as strength. Sometimes silence pretends to be protection. Sometimes silence pretends to be protection. Sometimes pride speaks louder than tenderness. And in those moments, we hurt the very soul we were trying to hold close. Forgive me, not as a demand, not as a right, but as a humble request from a heart that has finally understood the weight of its own mistake. I see it now. I see the moment my words became sharp instead of soft. I see the second I chose to defend myself instead of defending us. I see how my stubbornness built a wall where there should have been open arms. I thought love meant being strong all the time. I thought love meant never bending. I thought if I admitted I was wrong, I would lose something. But the truth is, I lost more by pretending I wasn't. You trusted me with your heart. That is not a small thing. A heart is not just an organ that beats, it is memories, it is dreams, it is childhood wounds and future hopes, it is late night fears and early morning smiles. And when you placed yours in my hands, you were giving me something sacred. I should have handled it with gentleness. Instead, in one careless moment, I let my ego tighten its grip. I remember the look in your eyes. Not anger, not hatred, just disappointment. And somehow, that hurt more than any scream ever could, because disappointment means you expected better from me. You believed I was capable of more love than I showed. And you were right. I was wrong when I let my frustration speak before my heart. I was wrong when I chose silence instead of conversation. I was wrong when I assumed you would always understand me, even when I assumed you would always understand me, even when I didn't take the time to understand you. Love is not just about passion, it is about patience. It is about listening even when you feel misunderstood. It is about choosing softness when your pride wants to stand tall. And I forgot that. I forgot that loving you required more than feeling something powerful. And I forgot that loving you required more than feeling something powerful. It required protecting something fragile. Forgive me for the nights you felt alone while standing right next to me. Uh, Felt alone while standing right next to me. Forgive me for the moments you questioned your worth because I failed to remind you how extraordinary you are. Forgive me for making you doubt something that should have felt safe. You see, love is not proven in grand gestures. It is proven in the small decisions, the decision to stay calm, the decision to speak kindly, the decision to speak kindly, the decision to admit fault. And I failed in those small decisions. I thought I was defending myself, thought I was protecting my side of the story. But love is not a courtroom. There are no winners when two hearts are fighting for pride instead of fighting for pride, instead of fighting for each other. I was wrong to raise my voice when I should have lowered my guard. I was wrong to hold on to being right instead of holding on to you. I was wrong to let a temporary emotion create permanent distance. Forgive me not because I deserve it, but because I finally understand. I understand that love is not about being flawless. It is about being accountable. It is about standing in front of the person you hurt and not hiding behind explanations. Yes, I had reasons. Yes, I had feelings. But reasons do not erase pain. Explanations do not undo tears. Intentions do not cancel impact. Music. I see now that when you love someone, you become responsible for the way your words land on their heart. Even if you didn't mean to wound them, the wound still exists, and the only way to heal it is to acknowledge it. There is a strange strength in saying that A quiet strength, the kind that doesn't shout but endures, the kind that doesn't shout but endures, the kind that chooses humility over image, because love is more important than looking strong. I want to be the man who protects your peace. I want to be the man who protects your peace. I don't want to be the one who wins arguments. I want to be the one who wins back your trust. Trust is delicate. It is built slowly, moment by moment, and it can crack in a second. When I let my pride speak for me, I placed a crack in something we built with care. I see that now, and seeing it hurts. But this pain is necessary. Because pain teaches, turns into music. Pain humbles. Pain reminds us what truly matters. What truly matters is you. Your smile that lights up ordinary days. Your voice that softens my storms. Your presence that makes the world feel less heavy. Music. I was wrong to risk that over something so small, so temporary, so meaningless. Compared to what we have, forgive me for the times I made love feel like a battlefield instead of a sanctuary. Forgive me for forgetting that we are on the same side. Forgive me for reacting instead of reflecting. I don't stand here as a perfect man. I don't stand here as a perfect man. I stand here as a man who has learned, a man who has looked into the mirror and seen his own flaws clearly, a man who understands that love demands growth. Growth is uncomfortable. It requires admitting that you were not your best. Growth is uncomfortable. It requires admitting that you were not your best. It requires tearing down parts of yourself that no longer serve the relationship. It requires choosing change over comfort. And I am choosing change, not because I am afraid of losing you, though that fear is real, but because loving you means becoming better than I was yesterday. Loving you means refusing to repeat the same mistake. Loving you means holding myself accountable even when it's hard. I was wrong when I assumed you would just get over it. Like, hearts don't just move on from pain because we tell them to. They heal when they feel understood. They heal when they feel valued. They heal when they feel valued. They heal when they feel safe with me. Safe to speak. Safe to feel. Safe to disagree. Safe to feel. Safe to disagree. Safe to be imperfect. Just as I am learning to be imperfect without being defensive. Forgive me for the times I made you feel unheard. Forgive me for the times I made you feel unheard. Forgive me for every tear that fell because of my stubbornness. Use it. Forgive me for turning a moment into a memory you didn't deserve. Love is fragile, but it is also resilient. It can survive storms if both hearts are willing to rebuild. And I am willing to listen more, to speak softer, to pause before reacting, to choose us over ego. I was wrong, and I accept that fully. No excuses, no blame shifting, just honesty. Because real love doesn't hide behind excuses. Real love kneels when necessary. Real love kneels when necessary. There is something sacred about an apology given without conditions. I am not asking you to forget. I am not asking you to forget. I am not asking you to erase what happened. I am asking for the chance to prove that I have learned from it. Love is not about never falling. It is about how quickly and sincerely you get back up to protect what matters. And you matter. More than my pride. More than my need to be understood first. More than my momentary frustration. You matter in ways that words can barely describe. When I imagine my life without you, it feels incomplete. Not dramatic, not desperate, just honest. You are woven into my everyday thoughts, my plans, my quiet hopes. I was wrong to let something temporary create distance between something permanent in my heart. Forgive me for forgetting how precious you are. Forgive me for letting my emotions cloud my judgment. Yeah. Forgive me for not being as gentle as you deserved. I am not here to promise perfection. I am here to promise perfection. I am here to promise here, fort conscious, intentional effort. The kind that chooses empathy over reaction. The kind that remembers that love is not about control, but about connection. Connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires admitting when you are wrong. So I say it again without hesitation, without defense. I was wrong. And I am sorry, not because I was caught in a mistake, not because I was caught in a mistake, not because I fear consequences, but because I genuinely regret the pain I caused you. Your heart is not something to test, it is something to treasure. I want to treasure it better. I want to protect it more carefully. I want to be the reason you feel secure, not the reason you question your place. If love is a journey, then this is a turning point. A moment where I choose maturity over immaturity. Music, understanding over assumption, partnership over pride. Forgive me, not as an obligation, but as a possibility. A possibility that we can grow stronger from this. A possibility that honesty can deepen what we already have. A possibility that mistakes, when acknowledged, can transform into wisdom. I don't want this apology to be just words. Words are easy, Change is harder, and I am ready for the harder path. Because loving you is worth the effort. Loving you is worth the effort. Loving you is worth swallowing my pride. Loving you is worth admitting that I failed in that moment. I was wrong, and in admitting that, I feel something shift inside me. A release of the need to defend, a release of the illusion that I must always be right to be respected. True respect comes from accountability. True love grows from humility. And I choose both. If I could go back to that moment, I would choose differently. I would breathe instead of react. I would listen instead of interrupt. I would listen instead of interrupt. I would hold your hand instead of building a wall. I can't go back, but I can move forward differently. Forgive me for the version of me that didn't pause. Forgive me for the version of me that spoke too quickly. Forgive me for the version of me that forgot how deeply I care. The man standing here now understands something important. Love is not fragile because it is weak. It is fragile because it is precious. Uh, and precious things deserve careful hands. I want my hands to be careful with you, careful with your feelings, careful with your trust, careful with your dreams. I was wrong to treat a disagreement as a battle. It should have been a conversation. It should have been two hearts trying to understand, not two egos trying to win. I don't want to win against you. I want to win against you. I want to win with you. Forgive me for the times I forgot that. Forgive me for letting pride speak louder. You. Forgive me for allowing my temporary emotions to overshadow my permanent commitment. Because my commitment to you is real. It is steady. It is deeper than one mistake, deeper than one argument, deeper than one flawed reaction. Music. I stand here stripped of excuses, stripped of defensiveness, holding only truth in my hands. I was wrong, and I love you enough to say it again and again until my actions prove that I have truly learned, until my patience reflects my sincerity. Music. Until my gentleness restores what my stubbornness damaged, until every look in your eyes carries warmth instead of doubt, until your heart feels safe resting against mine without hesitation, without fear, without remembering that moment as a wound, but as the day I finally understood what loving you truly requires. And I continue choosing that understanding every single day, in the quiet ways, in the unseen efforts, in the softened tone of my voice, in the unseen efforts, in the softened tone of my voice, in the pauses, in the way I hold you when words are not enough, in the way I remind you through consistency that you are valued, that you are cherished, that you are not alone in this love. And as I stand here still learning, still growing, the music, still hoping you can see the sincerity in my eyes and feel the truth in my heartbeat as it whispers the same fragile confession over and over again that I was wrong, and I am asking gently, patiently, patiently, hoping you can find it in your heart to forgive me and allow us to keep walking forward together, step by step, rebuilding trust with quiet strength, and choosing each other beyond pride, beyond fear, beyond the shadow of that mistake, choosing each other in a way that feels softer, wiser, deeper than before, choosing love not as a feeling that comes and goes, but as a decision we protect even when it is difficult, even when it demands humility, even when it demands humility, even when it demands humility, even when it asks us to look at ourselves honestly and admit where we failed. And I am here in that honesty, without armor, without excuses, simply waiting in this vulnerable space, holding my heart open, ready to continue loving you better than I did before, ready to listen, ready to change. Music. Ready to prove through time and tenderness that this apology is not just a moment but the beginning of becoming the man you deserved. All along and still deserve now as I stand here saying once more in the quiet of this shared breath that I was wrong, and hoping you can still feel how deeply, deeply theirs turns into music deeply, how completely I love you and how sincerely I want to make this right as we move forward into whatever comes next together, without letting pride ever stand between us again and without forgetting how close we came to losing something beautiful over something so small, and how that realization alone has reshaped the way I see us, the way I see myself, the way I understand love and the responsibility that comes with holding another heart in your hands. And I remain here open, waiting, loving, learning, learning, hoping that in this fragile silence between us, there is still space for forgiveness and for us to continue writing our story with softer words and steadier hand and a deeper awareness that love, when nurtured with humility, can grow even stronger after being tested. And I am still here, still choosing you, still choosing us, is still choosing to be better than the man who let pride speak louder than love, and still holding on to the hope that your heart can feel mine, reaching for it, not to defend, not to argue bish, but simply to say I was wrong, And I never want to let that kind of distance come between us again as long as we both continue to breathe and believe in what we have and in what we can become together if you allow me the grace to keep proving it through every quiet, patient, intentional act of love that follows from this moment forward without needing applause, without needing recognition, only needing the chance to remain by your side and to keep whispering through my actions what my words began tonight, that I was wrong and that loving you is worth every ounce of humility it takes to admit it and to keep admitting it whenever necessary because our love deserves nothing less, and I am not walking away from that truth. I am standing inside it, willing to stay here in this vulnerable place for as long as it takes for your heart to feel safe enough to believe me again, and to slowly, you gently let forgiveness find its way back into the space between us where pride once stood, and where now there is only my open heart waiting, without conditions, without demands. Just waiting and loving and hoping that you can see that I am still here and that I am not going anywhere. And that this confession is not weakness, but devotion, and that devotion is what will guide every step I take beside you from this moment on as I continue to learn how to love you in the way you have always deserved and in the way I am determined to embody more fully with every passing day, as I remain here in this quiet truth that I was wrong and that I love you more that music and my pride and more than my fear and more than my need to be right, and I will keep standing in that truth. Even in silence, even in uncertainty, even in silence, even in uncertainty, even in the fragile space where forgiveness is not yet fully settled, but hope still lives, and where my heart continues to reach for yours, without forcing, without rushing, simply reaching, gently, patiently, faithfully,